Hello, we are students in UWP 104A Business Writing, and we are doing a collaborative project on the desk size in Wellman Hall. My name is Kelsey I.
My name's Sophia Freer.
My name is Nguyen.
So the problem that we're looking at for our collaborative report is the Wellman lecture halls and their desk sizes. So we focused on 4 different lecture halls, room 6, 26, 106, and 126. And we saw 3 different problems that arose in each of these rooms. So the first problem was the size of the desk. So we saw that the desks themselves are unable to hold all of the materials necessary to succeed in the classroom. These include laptops, notebooks, writing utensils, and of course coffee. So students are not able to fit all these materials on the desk, meaning that they're not able to focus to the fullest potential. Also, there's no space in between the rows of seats. So as students are trying to find a seat during lecture, they're forced to quite literally crawl over their fellow classmates. So this causes disturbances to multiple parties in the lecture hall. First, it causes a disturbance to the student who is sitting down, already set for lecture, and then has to move all of their things, pack up their bags, stand up to let the other student pass over them. This also causes a disturbance to students sitting around them, as all the shuffling is going to draw their attention away from what's going on at the front of the classroom and towards the disturbance at hand. And lastly, this causes a disturbance towards the lecture themselves, as students are not paying attention because of all the shuffle that's going on. Also, we saw that this causes an effect on learning for the students. So when all of these different factors are in place, when they can't put all the necessary materials on the desk, when there's people moving around trying to squeeze past one another, they're not able to adequately learn and focus on the material at hand when their attention is elsewhere. So what we equated this to was students feeling like Buddy the Elf. As you can see, Buddy is way too big for his desk. He is quite literally out of place compared to all the students around him, and this is kind of what we feel like the lecture halls in Wellman are like. So we have a quick video to kind of show you what we mean.
Every day like Christmas. Number 2, there's room for everyone on the nice way. Number 3, the best way to spread Christmas cheer is singing loud for all to hear.
So in order to better understand the situation of the Wellman desk, we went out to measure the desk size of the Wellman Hall desk. And in the photos above on the screen, you see that the desk is smaller than the piece of paper that I was holding. With a desk that size, how can we expect students to place their laptops or their coffee cups or their notebooks on there comfortably and be able to pay attention to class without being afraid of it falling off or slipping off the desk? If you look at the photo all the way to the right, you see that the space between the seats it's a very tight space, and students often have to squeeze through that tight space in order to get to a seat in the middle, which happens quite often because students come in late all the time. In addition to measuring the desk at Wellman Hall, we want to compare the desk of Wellman Hall to other desks of other halls across campus. We chose Science Lecture Hall, Storer Hall, Art Hall, and Art Hall. The metrics that we used to measure the desk were desk length and desk width, which we used to calculate the desk surface area, and then we also measured the distance between the seat rows. If you look at the other 4 lecture halls, the desk surface area is averaged around 136 square inches as compared to the surface area of Wellman Hall desk, which is only 72. This clearly shows that Wellman Hall is lacking in desk surface area. We also looked at the distance between the seat rows, and we found that the comfortable spacing of the other lecture halls were around 13 to 14 inches, while the spacing in Wellman was only 10 inches, which is a very tight space for students to squeeze through. We also created a survey to find out how students feel about Wellman desks, and we were able to get 104 students to participate in our survey. Through the survey, we found that 76% of the students feel that the Wellman Hall desks were uncomfortable and they were insufficient for them to place their learning materials on. That's roughly 3/4 of the students agreeing that the Wellman Hall desks are too small for them.
These things definitely have an effect on the academic performance of the students. We found a couple studies that showed how the learning environment really affects the performance of students. And a couple things that are missing from the Wellman Hall lecture halls are the comfort, maintenance, functionality, and appearance. So first, comfort. As Lynn was saying, we surveyed students, and over 76% of the students said that they didn't feel that the Wellman desks could comfortably hold all their supplies. And this causes a distraction for students if they are having lecture and they aren't able to pay attention fully to the lecture because they're concerned about not being able to fit all their supplies on the desk. And so this is a way that comfort and uncomfortability just affects the learning environment in Wellman. Another thing is maintenance. So these desks are 50 years old, and it just shows how neglected they've been. And although this may not be true as a university, it just shows, it may show that the university doesn't care for these furnishings that they've supplied for the students. And we also found a study that showed how this affects the way that students feel about the classroom. And as I said before, the study showed that this affected the way the students felt and how the university, although it may not be true that the university doesn't care, the neglection of these desks may show that to the students. And so also another factor that affects the learning environment is the functionality of the desks. As I said, the desks have been, they seem to be neglected, and so a lot of the desks do not work. They're not able to support all the supplies, and so a lot of them don't stay up the whole time, and a lot of them won't even come up. So some students are left without a desk during lecture. And lastly, although this may seem minor, is the appearance. We also found a couple studies that showed how the appearance also represents just neglection and affects the student's perception of lecture and overall their motivation to learn. And so a couple studies that we found were studies that showed how the physical conditions of the classroom can very much affect the attainment, the engagement, the attendance, and the well-being of students. And so, like I said before, the lack of comfort in the classroom definitely affects how much information a student can attain because they're distracted and there is a fear of their supplies possibly falling or being damaged. They're not able to attain as much information as if they had a desk that was functional and if they were able to pay full attention to the lecture. This also affects their engagement. If they're not fully paying attention to the lecture, they're not able to listen, and then this also leads to lower participation from students. And lastly, attendance and well-being. Students are less likely to be motivated to attend class if the lecture hall is perceived as just uncomfortable and a hassle to get through and a hassle to get settled into. The studies also showed that comfortable furniture and equipment in a classroom led to a better attitude, which led to a higher attainment of information, and also how the design of the classroom also affects the likelihood of participation from students.
So the solution that we're proposing is that we take out all the old desks from the 4 lecture halls in Wellman Hall and replace them with a desk that we found from produced by a company called American Seating. They offer a desk for $376 each, and and we estimate that each lecture hall will require about 110 seats. This puts the estimation of the cost at about $41,000 per lecture hall. Through this renovation, we're hoping to increase the surface area from the original 72 square inches to approximately 108 square inches. We're also hoping to increase the space between the seat rows from about 10 inches to 13 or 14 inches, which is the ideal measurement that we found from observing the other lecture halls.
And lastly, we want to touch on the collaborative process of our team as we were gathering this research. So as a team, we have very good communication. We were able to keep in contact with one another throughout this process and keep each other updated on different things that we were working on, where we were at with the project. And so it was just good in terms of knowing where we were at as for our timeline. We were also very aware of the expectations. Because we are working as a team, we knew that this was a collaborative group effort. And so with that comes responsibility and expectations. We held ourselves accountable to the different parts of the project that we took responsibility for. And so with that, we were just able to be very aware of what we needed to do ourselves. And then also, as we are all very busy with different classes and obligations, we were able to find time throughout the week here and there to meet up and kind of touch base with where we were at and figure out which direction we wanted to go. And lastly, we all took equal initiative with the project. So we had this mindset of what can I do to help, how can I make this better, how can I contribute, rather than a mindset of what is the minimum amount of work that I need to do in order to get a good grade. So I think all of us just working together and really wanting to do well on this is what led us to gather information successfully and build a report on it. Because ultimately, teamwork makes the dream work. And so thank you for listening to our project.